Your home is supposed to be your sanctuary, the one place where you can lock the door, close the curtains, and be completely alone. But are you ever truly alone? There is a disturbing crime phenomenon called phrogging. It is when a stranger secretly lives inside your house without you knowing. In the attic, in the crawl space, or inside the walls. They eat your food when you are at work. They watch you sleep at night. But there is an older legend in Japan about something that doesn't just live in the walls. It lives in the gaps, the space between your dresser and the wall, the crack under the door. This is the story of Michael and the tenant he didn't know he had. Michael was a freelance graphic designer. He spent most of his time at home. He found a great deal on a spacious apartment in the city. It was an old building, high ceilings, thick walls, and heavy wooden floors that creaked at night. The rent was suspiciously cheap, but the landlord said it was just because the building was old. Michael moved in on a rainy Saturday. He arranged his furniture perfectly, his desk by the window, his bed in the center, and a massive antique wardrobe that came with the apartment. It was too heavy to move, so it stood against the far wall, leaving a gap of about 2 inches between the wood and the plaster. A dark, narrow gap. The first week was normal, but then small things started to happen. Things that Michael brushed off as forget. He would buy a carton of milk, and 2 days later, it would be empty. He would leave his keys on the kitchen counter and find them on the coffee table. One morning, he found a toilet seat up. He lived alone. He assumed he was just tired, overworked. He started taking sleeping pills to get some rest, but the pills only made him sleep deeper. He didn't hear the footsteps. He didn't hear the soft breathing right next to his ear. A month passed. The atmosphere in the apartment changed. It felt heavy, like the air was thick with static. Michael started feeling a constant gaze. Whenever he sat at his desk, he felt eyes burning into his back. He would turn around quickly, but there was nothing there. Just the empty room and that heavy antique wardrobe. One evening, he was working late. The apartment was dead silent. Then he heard it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from the bedroom. He walked slowly down the hallway. He thought it might be a rat or mice in the walls. He put his ear against the wall next to the wardrobe. The scratching stopped immediately. It was listening to him. Michael became obsessed. He was convinced something was in the wall behind the wardrobe. He couldn't move the heavy furniture alone. So he bought a flashlight. He shined the beam into the 2-inch gap. Dust bunnies, cobwebs, darkness. The light couldn't reach the back, but he felt a cold draft coming from the gap. It smelled like old perfume and rot. Terrified, he decided to seal it. He bought rolls of thick red duct tape. He taped over the gap between the wardrobe and the wall, layer after layer. He sealed every crack, every opening. He felt safe. For a few days, the feeling of being watched disappeared. He thought he had won. 3 nights later, Michael woke up at 3 a.m. He didn't know why. The room was dark. He reached for his glass of water on the nightstand. It was gone. He sat up, confused. He turned on the bedside lamp. His heart stopped. The red tape on the wardrobe. It was peeled back. Not from the outside, but from the inside. The sticky side of the tape was pushed out. Toward the room. Something had pushed its way out, or something was inviting him to look in. Michael grabbed a baseball bat. He stood up. "Who is there?" he shouted. His voice cracked. Silence answered him. But then, he noticed something on the floor. Wet footprints. Barefoot. Small. Leading from the gap. I don't know. The fear was eating him alive. He walked towards the wardrobe. The gap seemed wider now. Darker. He gripped the flashlight. His hands were shaking so hard, the beam of light danced on the wall. He leaned in close. "Don't do it, Michael." But he did. He put his face near the gap, and he shined the light directly into the darkness. At first, he saw nothing. Just the wall. But then, the wall blinked. It wasn't a wall. It was an eye. A massive, bloodshot human eye. Staring right back at him from 2 inches away. It was so close he could see the tiny veins. He could see his own reflection in the pupil. Michael screamed and fell back. The eye didn't move. It just stared then. A voice came from the gap. It was a dry, raspy whisper, like sandpaper on wood. "You have nice skin." The wardrobe shifted. The heavy wooden beast, which he couldn't move an inch, started to slide forward. Scrape. Scrape. Something was pushing it from behind. It was impossibly thin, like a skeleton wrapped in paper skin. The fingers were long. Too long. With dirty, cracked nails. It reached for Michael's ankle. He scrambled backward on the floor, kicking, screaming. He managed to stand up. He ran to the front door. He fumbled with the locks. Behind him, he heard the sound of a body squeezing through a tight space. Squelch. Pop. Crack. The sound of bones dislocating to fit through the gap. Michael ran out of the apartment building in his boxers. He never went back. Not for his clothes. Not for his computer. Not for anything. The police investigated the apartment the next day. They moved the wardrobe. Behind it, they found a small hole in the drywall. Barely big enough for a cat, but inside the wall cavity, they found food wrappers, empty milk cartons, and a nest made of human hair. Lots of hair. But they didn't find the woman, or whatever she was. Michael moved to a different state. He lives in a house with no furniture against the walls now. Everything is in the center of the room. But he still has trouble sleeping, because sometimes, when he is lying in bed at night, he looks at the gap between his door and the floor. Just a tiny sliver of darkness. And he swears he can see an eye watching him, waiting for him to fall asleep. Look around your room right now. Is there a gap behind your desk? Behind your bed? Are you sure it's empty? Maybe you should check, or maybe it is better not to know. Good night.